I never planned on dying that Tuesday afternoon. But as the medical team's panicked voices faded and I found myself floating near the hospital ceiling, watching my own body below, I realized something profound had changed. The pain was gone. The fear had vanished, and beside me stood a presence so loving, so familiar, that I understood immediately this wasn't the end of my story, but the beginning of my freedom. What I saw in those moments between worlds would give me the courage to escape a life of abuse and find a love I'd only dreamed possible. My name is Jennifer Barnes, and this is what I saw when I died, but by His grace, I was given a second chance. Before I continue, please let me know where you're listening from. It would be nice to feel closer, even if we're physically apart. Also, don't forget to like. It will help this video to reach so many people who need to listen to this testimony, and leave a comment. Share your thoughts about this near-death experience testimony. Let's have a fair and open discussion so we can learn from each other here on this channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more of this content coming your way. Enjoy listening. I grew up in the peaceful town of West Salem, Oregon, surrounded by the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. I was one of 5 siblings, 3 older than me and 1 younger. My little sister and I were inseparable, riding our bikes everywhere, exploring the neighborhood with carefree abandon. Those were happy days filled with family camping trips, laughter, and the simple joys of childhood. West Salem was truly a wonderful place to grow up. After high school, I enrolled in City College, excited about earning my own money and establishing independence. By 27, I had moved to Santa Barbara, California, far from my family support system in Oregon. The golden beaches and perfect weather of Southern California seemed like paradise at first, but that's where my life took a darker turn. In Santa Barbara, I met and married a man who initially seemed charming and stable, but beneath that facade lurked serious anger and control issues. The abuse began subtly but escalated over time. He controlled every aspect of our lives. Mine, and my son's from a previous relationship. His anger from work or any minor frustration would be unleashed on us at home. If we didn't follow his precise instructions, we'd face his wrath. I've tried everything, I confided to a friend once. Counseling, church, therapy, he rejects it all. Nothing could help him manage his anger, and our home became a prison of fear rather than a sanctuary. The incident that changed everything happened on our patio one evening. He called me outside where he was working with bags of cement supported by 2x4s. "Come over here," he demanded. When I approached, he grabbed my left arm and forcefully pulled me under one of the heavy wooden beams. Then, in a moment of calculated cruelty, he removed his shoulder that had been supporting the weight. The 2x4 and the heavy cement bags came crashing down onto my shoulder. The pain was explosive, like being shot through my lower back. I crumpled to the ground, unable to stand. Later I would learn that the impact had ruptured a disc in my spine, causing severe nerve damage. Walking became nearly impossible after that day. The first doctor I consulted delivered devastating news. "You've got sciatica from a blown disc. I don't think I can fix this. You may never walk normally again." I was only 31 years old with an 8-year-old son and a 5-month-old daughter. The thought of being disabled for life was unacceptable. A colleague urged me to get a second opinion, recommending a neurosurgeon in the area. When I met with him, his confidence was reassuring. Looking at my x-rays on the light board, he declared, "I can fix this." Those 4 simple words gave me hope. He scheduled surgery for December 1987. But first I needed a diagnostic procedure called a myelogram. The myelogram involved injecting iodine dye into my spinal cord, while on an X-ray table that would be tilted to allow the dye to flow along my spine. The doctors needed to see if the spinal cord had been damaged when the disc ruptured. They warned me repeatedly, if you move at all during this process, you could experience severe headaches for months afterward. Stay completely still. The room was filled with medical personnel. My neurosurgeon, an orthopedic surgeon, 2 X-ray technicians and a nurse. They numbed the area behind my neck, inserted the needle and began tilting the table. The mechanical whirring of the table was the only sound as it slowly changed position. That's when I started feeling strange, lightheaded, disconnected. No one noticed my distress as they chatted among themselves, just another routine procedure for them. But the X-ray technician was pressing the wrong button. tilting the table too rapidly. My breathing became erratic. I couldn't control it. The rapid, shallow gasps finally caught the attention of one of the technicians. He leaned over my face and saw my eyes rolling back. The last thing I witnessed was his panicked expression as he looked down at the button his thumb was pressing. Suddenly, I was no longer on the table. I was floating near the ceiling, looking down at my own body and the medical team below. The panic I had felt moments before completely vanished. Up there, I felt embraced by what I can only describe as a blanket of pure love. Unconditional, all-encompassing acceptance that penetrated every fiber of my being. I watched with detached curiosity as the technician shouted, "Code Blue." The calm realization came to me. If I'm up here and my body is down there, I think I just died. In that moment, I became aware of a presence beside me, a being of light that felt intimately familiar, as if I'd known this entity forever. Though no words were spoken aloud, I understood that this was a divine presence. The love emanating from this being was beyond anything I'd experienced in my earthly life. I felt completely known, completely accepted, a pure spirit connected to something greater than myself. Below, chaos unfolded. The doctors shouted orders, while the nurse frantically called for a defibrillator. The X-ray technicians had begun CPR, alternating chest compressions every 2 minutes. I observed it all with strange detachment, as if watching a movie about someone else. But then a thought pierced through my serene state. My children, my little daughter, just 5 months old, and my 8-year-old son would be left with my abusive husband if I didn't return. The thought was unbearable. I need to go back. I communicated to the being beside me. I need to protect my children. As I watched the emergency team working below, a man rushed in with a box, placing it on a ledge beside the X-ray table. He peeled off white adhesive circles and placed them on my chest. I wondered what he was doing, and instantly, without moving or traveling, I found myself directly in front of the box. I watched as the man's hand passed between my consciousness and the device, flipping a switch. A small light illuminated a screen, and a straight line moved across. With sudden clarity, I understood. That's a heart monitor. That's my flat line. The moment this realization formed, I was back near the ceiling beside the luminous being. I understood that my question had been answered through direct experience rather than explanation. Below, the neurosurgeon spoke gravely to his colleague. "Too much time has passed. She's going to be brain dead. We need to do something." The orthopedic surgeon commanded, "Stand clear." The X-ray technician stepped back from the table. The surgeon raised his fist high above his head, brought it down forcefully on my chest. A precordial thump. My body jerked from the impact, but I remained separated from it, observing from above. Then the being beside me spoke for the first time, in a voice that resonated through my consciousness. "But if you go back, you'll still be in your marriage. What will you do?" Before I could answer, a rapid succession of images flashed before me, like film clips playing at high speed. Each one showed an instance of abuse I had endured over the years. Each event was followed by the inevitable apology, the promises that it would never happen again, the brief period of remorse before the cycle began anew. I was given time to reflect on everything I had tried to change the situation. The 8-page letter I'd written about the abuse, the marriage counseling sessions he'd refused to attend, the pastor whose guidance he'd rejected. In that moment of crystal clarity, I realized something profound. It wasn't him who needed to change. It was me. I needed to stop trying to fix him, and instead find the strength to leave. "If you let me go back," I promised, "I'll get strong enough to leave him." The instant I uttered those words, the orthopedic surgeon delivered a second precordial thump to my chest. My heart restarted, and I opened my eyes, back in my body with an oxygen mask covering my face. The medical team was astonished when my eyes opened. "What just happened?" I asked weakly. "Don't talk," the nurse cautioned. "We need to stabilize you first." After 20 minutes of careful monitoring, they removed the oxygen mask. I looked at their concerned faces and asked again, "What happened?" I was up on the ceiling. I could see and hear everything. The neurosurgeon's response was immediate and dismissive. "Oh, brother," he scoffed, turning away. But I persisted, recounting specific details that I couldn't possibly have known. She was calling for a defibrillator. That man brought in the heart monitor. I watched my flatline. These two were doing CPR,
switching every 2 minutes. And you, I pointed to the neurosurgeon. You said too much time had passed, that I would be brain dead. The neurosurgeon clenched his fists, visibly uncomfortable. I am not going to stand here and listen to this, he declared, before storming out of the room. In contrast, the orthopedic surgeon took my hand gently. Tell me again, he encouraged. What did you see? How did it feel? His interest was genuine, his mind open to something beyond conventional medical understanding. They transferred me to a recovery room, with surgery scheduled for the following day. Every staff member who entered my room heard the same question from me. What happened during my myelogram? Each would look at my chart and respond with confusion. I don't see anything noted here. I don't know what you're talking about. After my successful back surgery, a laminectomy and discectomy of my L5-S1 vertebrae, I asked the doctors about the incident again. The neurosurgeon cut me off sharply. I am not here to talk about that. I'm here to discuss your surgery.
For 4 days in the hospital, no one would acknowledge what had happened. I had no vocabulary for my experience, had never heard the term near-death experience, and had no frame of reference for understanding what had occurred. When I described the event to my husband, he dismissed it. You probably hallucinated. But I knew better. I'd never used drugs, rarely drank alcohol, and had never experienced hallucinations. Yet with no one to validate my experience, I kept it to myself for nearly 12 years. The memory of that experience and the promise I had made stayed with me as I quietly planned my escape. My abusive husband had heavily insured me, and I feared he might kill me if I tried to leave. I waited patiently for the right moment, when he was on a week-long business trip to Canada. During his absence, I obtained a restraining order and notified the police of my dangerous situation. The divorce was difficult, but I managed to build a new life for my children and myself. Looking back, I believe my near-death experience was purposefully placed in my life to give me the courage to escape that situation and grow beyond it. For 2 years, I focused solely on working and supporting my children. The thought of allowing another person into my life seemed too risky, but then I began a simple practice. Each night before bed, I would write in a small notebook, listing positive character traits I would want in a partner if I ever trusted again. After reviewing these qualities, I would say, God, I don't know who this person is, but I know that you do. The universe has a way of responding when we're ready. One day my son, then in 8th grade, and a neighborhood girl conspired to bring their parents together. They asked both of us to take them to a movie. When I arrived at the girl's house to pick them up, a tall, kind-faced man opened the door, equally confused about the arrangement. Hi, I'm here to take your daughter and my son to the movie, I said awkwardly. That's strange, he replied with a warm smile, because they asked me to take them. We both realized immediately what the children were doing, trying to set us up. Despite my embarrassment, we all went to the movie together and had dinner afterward. Over the next few months, as our families spent time together, I realized with astonishment that this man embodied every quality I had written in my notebook. 6 months after our first meeting, we married. 30 years later, he remains the kind, loving person I described in those late-night writings. It wasn't until my daughter was 12 that I finally found validation for my experience. While watching her gymnastics practice, I confided in a friend who worked as a nurse. She was the first to tell me, Jennifer, what you experienced is called a near-death experience. She encouraged me to research the phenomenon online, which had recently become possible with the advent of the internet. I spent 3 days reading other people's accounts, amazed by the similarity, the out-of-body observation, the overwhelming feeling of love, the life review, the presence of a spiritual being. These elements appeared consistently across thousands of testimonies from people of diverse backgrounds and beliefs. This is real, I realized, tears streaming down my face. I'm not alone. My near-death experience fundamentally changed how I view life, death, and consciousness. I no longer fear death. Instead, I see it as a transition, a returning home. I believe our consciousness, our essential self, survives physical death. The boundary between this world and the next feels thin to me now. I sense that our loved ones who have passed remain connected to us, that they hear us when we speak to them. When someone I care about dies, I still feel grief for the physical separation, but comfort in knowing they continue to exist. This awareness has shaped how I live each day. I look for opportunities to help others, knowing that the joy from these acts creates positive energy that extends beyond our physical existence. Whether it's picking up trash on the beach with my children, helping a stranger with groceries, or simply smiling at a baby in a shopping cart, these small acts of kindness matter in the grand tapestry of existence. I believe we choose to come to Earth for spiritual growth, setting challenges that help our souls evolve. Each life experience, whether joyful or painful, teaches us something valuable. At the end of each life, we review our choices and growth before perhaps returning for further learning. My near-death experience was the most profound gift of my life. It gave me courage when I needed it most, and offered a glimpse of what awaits us all, not darkness or nothingness, but love beyond measure. This understanding has transformed my appreciation for each moment here, each connection, each opportunity to grow in compassion and wisdom. As I share my story, I hope it offers others what it has given me, the freedom from fear of death, and the inspiration to live authentically, with purpose and love. We are all spiritual beings, having a human experience, learning and growing together on this remarkable journey. Thank you for listening to my testimony. If you have been blessed, please kindly like this video, share to your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more of this testimonies coming your way. Until next time, remain blessed.